One of the things I could never do in my life was live inside the box. I never was that kind of person. I remember being really young, and my dad used to always, tell me, like to calm down, or why are you so ambitious, or whatever. We grew up in a really poor neighborhood most of the time, and I'd always look at other things, and I'd be like, Dad, why don't we get that? My dad's like, well, son, we can't afford that. And I'm like, why not? And so I was immature, but at the same time, my mindset, I think, was in the right place, that I'm like, why not? What do we have to do? Well, where do I have to work? Well, what do I have to think? Well, who do I have to meet? Well, what, you know what I mean? I was like, well, what do you mean we can't? You know what I mean? And I remember being like 10, 12, 15 years old thinking that. And so, but living inside the box and living in the status quo, it just never did it for me. And I don't know about you, but I find that most people in the world, we are not happy just living a status quo lifestyle. We're not happy just going to work and just coming home and just watching some TV and going to bed. Like, that doesn't satisfy you. And whether you realize that today, or you realize that in 10 years or in 50 years, you're going to realize that. And I heard somebody say this one time. They said that, living in a box, living life in a box is very natural, especially in America, because we excuse me, we live in a box, right? We eat breakfast in a box or out of a box. We drive to work in a box. We type into a box. We sit inside a cubicle. We sit in a box. We drive home in a box. We drive home in a box to our box, our home. We sit on a box and watch a box, right? And then at the end of the day, like in the last, 10 minutes of your consciousness before you go to bed, you think about, man, am I living life in a box? Of course you are, right? And I'm the kind of person that I just can't do that. I can't do that. And so I've never been able to do that. In fact, my bosses, it's so funny. It's like, go work for corporate companies, corporate America and stuff. And it's like, the first thing they try to indoctrinate you with, and it's fine, like it's for a lot of people, it wasn't for me. The first thing they'll try to indoctrinate you with is, how do you live inside the box? How do you exist inside the box? And they'll try to create that box for you and show you the structure and all those kind of things. And I just could never do that. I wanted to be about results. I didn't want to be about living in a box and performing well inside the box. And so, one of the things that you got to do is you got to challenge yourself to get yourself outside of the status quo and get yourself outside of that box. I remember some of my bosses, they loved me because I could perform and I was a top performer, but and I wasn't always the smartest or most talented or whatever, but I hustled, and I knew I knew what was most important to focus on. I remember bosses like pulling me into reviews and stuff, and I remember sometimes like not even getting a very good review. I remember one time, usually I get a top review. It's very common that I had the top reviews on my team, but I remember one time I got like a kind of a poor review, what I thought was a very poor review, and I told them, I said, this is actually the worst review I've gotten in a long time. And the reason I got that poor review was because I didn't fit inside the box. It wasn't, my numbers were great. I led the team the year before. I led the country, led 10,000 sales reps, led the country in sales. But because I didn't fit inside the box, so to speak, right? My administration, all those kind of things maybe weren't where they wanted it to be. But when it came to results, when it came to actually delivering and taking care of the customer and doing all those kind of things, I was as good as it could get. And I remember my boss. I remember having bosses and managers who would say, man, like it seems like you're like disengaged, like you're kind of bored, like you're not very, excited. And then we see you like get in front of people or whatever, and like this whole new James comes out. It's because, when I'm in those meetings, when I'm in the board meeting or the team meeting and those kind of things, like once we get to the BS, once we get to the, mumbo jumbo, it's like, I have nothing to say. I have nothing to add. I have no value add there. I'm not there for those kind of meetings. I'm not there to talk about those kind of things. I'm here for the results. And so anyway, and I'm not saying go out and be a rebel. I'm not trying to encourage that at all, but I'm just trying to share a little bit of my mindset about, how I've been able to live outside the results or live outside of the box and get the results that I want and that I needed in my life to deliver the kind of, life that I wanted emotionally, financially, and with my family and all those kind of things. And the same goes with your marriage. The same goes with anything, when it came to marriage, or family. It was funny. I had somebody recently tell me, we don't have the biggest house in the world, but we live in a decent neighborhood and stuff, and we're one of those people, like all our stuff's paid off, like stuff like that. So, but anyway, I have a 6-bedroom home, and I had somebody say, when are you gonna, do this and this for your little girl, and set up her room this way and make it all this and that, and I said, we're gonna do that whenever we feel ready to, but I actually found it kind of funny that the person was kind of telling me that in a way like I really wasn't taking care of my daughter, and I don't know, maybe it kind of rubbed me the wrong way, but I felt like what this person was saying was that if you really love your daughter, you're going to live inside the box. And anybody who has this kind of money, who does this, who has this kind of house, is going to have a room with all this, little stuff hanging everywhere and all this stuff. And I said, you know what? I said, I was very kind, but I just said, I'm going to focus on the things that are most important, which is making sure that I'm there for her emotionally, making sure that I'm the most active person in her life, making sure that, that when she thinks of a man, she thinks of daddy, and she thinks of somebody who can take care of her. She thinks of daddy, those kind of things, right? Those are the things that are really going to make a difference, right? I mean, putting a certain colored dresser and all that stuff. I mean, we have a lot of cool stuff for her, but anyway, I just want to share a little bit about that my life has never been about living inside the box. It just never worked for me. Maybe it does for you, and if it does for you, that's great, but hopefully I think this is going to mean a lot to you, no matter where you are, what stage you are in your life, in your marriage or whatever, that challenge yourself, do things that get yourself outside of the box. If you want different results, it's because you need to get outside of the box. All right, guys, thanks.